everyone, and welcome to Mopar Mike's Garage, the Load 'em Up Truck Build, Episode 1. Today we'll show you through the project and what we're all about. As you can see here, we've got our 1979 GMC General. I know you're thinking you're watching a page called Mopar Mike's Garage. Why is the first vehicle I'm showing you a GMC? Well, this GMC is going to be the donor chassis for our Load 'em Up truck. So I chose this chassis because, well, it came up on Marketplace, and I really like the aluminum dump body on the back. I'm planning to take the sides off of that and convert that into a flatbed for hauling some of the other projects home. But what drew me to it is a tandem axle truck with, it's got Dayton's all the way around, Dayton's being the style of hub on the front and evidently on the rear. It wasn't just a tag axle, it's a true tandem. So that was kind of the look that I was really hoping to go for with this truck. And then not only that, but the real big selling point for me was the drivetrain, the engine and the trans, which we'll show you here. Sure, the suspense was killing you, but it was killing me too. So what we've got here that's right, the Detroit diesel. Now I know you're thinking, man, that's a GM engine, but some of the Dodge big trucks back in the day did come with those engines. And plus, who doesn't love the sound of a two-stroke? So this is a 6V92 turbo. I don't really have too much information on it other than that. It starts up real good. I'd let you hear it, but it's kind of an act of Congress because we don't have any batteries for it. And it's also like 8 degrees out here, and that's 8 degrees Fahrenheit because we're located in Wisconsin. So all of our units are in bald eagles. None of that metric stuff around here. So it's coupled to an 8LL transmission. I'm not sure if that'll be what'll be the end result, but once we get this thing rolling, we will see where it goes from there. So obviously it's got the big floats on the front, which was also part of the look I wanted to go for. This is a 5-star General, which evidently the 5-star meant that it had the better interior. There's not really much to the interior, but we can give her a look-see here so you can see what it's all about. As you can tell in the shed here, the lighting is less than ideal, but we're working on that. It's definitely a work in progress. Not too much, pretty plain Jane as a whole. Bunch of the old GM style gauges, probably a few mouse nests, bunch of old load slips from when this truck was in service. A little fair amount of cleaning I got to do in here for sure. But the one drawback to this truck is it does have some really bad rust jacking in the frame. Obviously you can see that, well, I guess you can't really see it, but pretty sure this thing did a stint out in the pasture, and it's a double frame, and the double frame has actually got a crack between the rear wheels. So it's evidently gonna have to either be re-sleeved or depending where this project goes, maybe we'll put a cutoff on there and get an air leaf type of suspension or something. But you know, we're a little ways from that at this point. But the big part is we've got a truck with a usable motor trans, and a pretty sweet aluminum body. So future episodes will be cutting the sidewalls off of that and getting rid of that and turning it into a flatbed. That'll be what's coming next. So now I know suspense is probably killing you. What are we putting on this chassis to make it identify as a Dodge and not a GMC? Well, that would be this guy here. So this here is our 1968 Dodge C500. It doesn't have any badges on it right now because I took them off and polished them up, and they're actually sitting in my nightstand drawer. But so back in the day, Dodge was into the heavy truck market, and from I think 1964 to 1975, they produced this swing fender truck. So it's denoted as an LCF, low cab forward. It's rather short from the front of the grille to the rear of the cab. There's not a lot of distance there. So the motor kind of tucks under the cab slightly, depending on what was in it. So this one's only a 500, so this was a relatively light duty truck, even though it's medium size. I bought this out of central Wisconsin. It was originally a fire truck. It was green, so before that, but at one point when I bought it, it was a fire truck. Had a water tank on the back. The guy kept a water tank and gave me a screaming deal on the truck. It's powered by a little 318 two-barrel with a 5-speed transmission with a 2-speed rear end. The motor runs flawlessly. Unfortunately, the clutch is no good, and the tires are no good, and the brakes are non-existent. I know brakes! That's kind of the hard thing with some of these old trucks with the juice brakes. So that was kind of one of my other driving forces for really wanting to go big and go to air brakes and everything, because I can still get parts for that. So like I said, this one's in 1968. Some of the call outs to tell that it's an older style, like 68 versus into the 70s is in this, like I think it's 1970. They went from the quad headlights to single rounds with like a nice polished pie tin around them. So you'll see those, I think, are a little more prevalent than some of these earlier ones. And then I think the other like main change that you can notice is the door handles on the driver and passenger door. These are, I kind of describe them like for opening a cooler almost in a bar or restaurant. They're pretty cool, actually. So, but I know I keep calling it a swing fender, and you're probably saying, well, why is it a swing fender? So if you look here, I kind of point the light, you can see the hinge right down the side of the radiator there. So I already unlatched it, so I didn't break my neck over all the stuff that's trying to make this thing a barn find. But the fender actually swings out. It's just got the little claw that latches in there. And there you can see our little 318, snug as a bug. Actually a lot of space to kill, but we'll have to make some modifications, I'm sure, when we go to set her on the big chassis with the Detroit. So yeah, both fenders swing out, and then the hood actually opens straight up, which is so it's been sitting in heaven, opened the hood in a hot minute on this thing. But so, you know, as far as access, other than, you know, it's only about a shoulder's width from the radiator to the cab, You can actually get in there and stand right along the tire and everything. Because these kind of came out before the big thing became the tilt hoods and all that. Obviously, the Dodge Bighorns had the tilt hood, and those were just really cool trucks in general. So, fun fact, a little ancient piece of history. This little bag here is the washer fluid for the windshield. It's actually got a little foot pump on the floor in the cab. So that's a pretty old deal that, you know, you don't often see. I see the Wasper trying to inhabit my master cylinder. I'll have to take care of that while it's still cold out. It did sit outside for a couple years because I didn't have a shed to put it in, but now we're inside. So it's definitely time to get in and start working on it. So you can tell there's two different, I guess, versions of this truck that they made. So the heavier truck on the bigger chassis, that'd be like your, I don't know if 800 was the cutoff or 900, but when they had the diesel, they actually had a filler panel in here that was like another 4 inches. So the top of the fender was at the same height, but then there was a filler panel in here that raised the cab and everything else up, and then there was a filler panel around the rear of the fender and everything kind of right in there. There was a filler panel that followed that down and around too, and then one underneath the cab that gave the extra room for the big engines. So hopefully I might just source another set of these and stack it on. I'd love to find a whole cab so I can scavenge some sheet metal work off of it. And then the one main issue that I'm going to run into here is the width from outside of fender to outside of fender on this versus that guy is about a foot difference. So you'll see on the bigger trucks, they had this part here was also wider, 4 to 6 inches, which would make sense. So we might have to exercise our metalworking skills and stretch the fenders out a little bit to be able to hang over the wheels, because I'm not into that look with my wheels sticking out past my fender like all the honky kids out there these days. That's not me. So, but either way, gonna be a cool project. Gonna be a lot of work, huge undertaking. It's probably gonna take a couple of years, or 5 or 10, but that's all right. We'll document it as we go here. So some of you that are into older Dodge trucks might say, man, that cab looks familiar. It is actually the same cab that was used in, I believe, the 57 to 60 something, must be maybe 64, 65, Dodge pickup. So, and this cab, they continued making this cab. I think eventually Chrysler sold the molds to somebody else, and then had them produce the cab and doors for these trucks until 75, when Dodge got out of the heavy truck market. So I think also some of the FWD trucks use this cab as well, just with a different front end on it. But this, you'll see this kind of truck in Canada, they're usually Fargos. Same truck, just different badging on the front. Somehow Chrysler and Fargo and Dodge all had they were all tied together. But actually DeBoss Garage on YouTube is building a Fargo like this into a rollback, and it's a pretty sweet build. So you have to go and check that out. But one of the cool things is the windshield is actually curved. It kind of wraps around. So the cab itself is fairly narrow. Definitely not a lot of space, not a lot of room for activities in there.
So much more activities done.
But it is, yeah, we'll take a look inside of there. All right, so we'll try to take a look inside the cab of this thing if I can get to it without breaking my neck. So like I said, with the cooler style opener, just like going into the beer fridge, right? To excuse the mess, this one needs to be cleaned out too. There's a windmill in here. That's a project for the missus, but actually what we'll do is we'll go in from the other side. Another keen eye, spot a repop, 70 Challenger hood. That's for a different project. No, I don't have a 70 Challenger. It is my dream car, but that's down the ways. So as you can see, green on the inside, nice two-tone door panels, hand crank, escape latch. The floor is a little rough. She needs a little loving. But we are, we'll take care of that. All right, so we've got a lovely bench seat that, I don't know who's leaving bottles in here because I don't drink either of those, but here's our key. Can't believe I left that laying around. But as you can see, very plain Jane, not a lot to it here in the way of buttons and gizmos and gadgets. So we've got some work ahead of us. We do have this, the headliner's out. I do have it, the original cardboard. It's in pretty rough shape because they left a bunch of holes in the roof that I've got to patch from, I assume, the lights when it was a fire truck and everything. One cool thing about the ones from the early 60s, like 64, 65, is they actually had a bigger back window. And I think there was two different versions. If memory serves, there's one where the window comes out like basically right to the round of the cab corner. And then there's another one that actually has windows in the corner. So I'd love to, the windows in the corner are pretty cool. If I could find a cab like that, I'd probably either swap the cab or do some fabrication to make it work. But either way, so yeah, not a whole lot in here. Big giant steering wheel, true blue Mopar steering wheel with a horn. It's got the logo. Obviously, not a lot of room for gauges, so we will have to do a little work on that to be able to accommodate all the gauges that come along with a big truck. And we'll have to add a radio. This thing did not have a radio from the factory, but I found some pretty cool ones, factory look ones. Not that you'll be able to hear the radio with the Screaming Jimmy in there, but hopefully you're going to add a little box up here on the inside to put a CB in, and some other stuff kind of similar to what like the Peterbilts and the Kenworths have. How they have like the built-out box up there. I'd like to put in something like that. Hopefully I'll get a new headliner done if I can. I see some of the stuff that the day cab company does with the to make it look like the VIT stuff from Kenworth. That would be really neat to get after here and do. But so yeah, it's kind of the tour of this one. There's not much. When I bought it in 2019, I had hopes of getting the brakes working on it and getting her rolling on the road and just drive it as is to shows and stuff. Unfortunately, that didn't pan out. But overall, this thing, like I said, there's a spot on the floor. The front fenders, there's a little bit of rust on the top. So this one I think was caused by the there we go. So this is where the battery mounted. So I think that's why that one is kind of in the condition that it's in. But we can, we'll be in there doing some sheet metal work anyway. So really it's just the front fenders are definitely the thing that seemed to have taken her the hardest, and then the floor. The rest of the cab is actually, it's pretty solid. So, you know, I think between these two trucks, I've got, yeah, so see here, I've got a little bit of work to do. And then around this headlight here, actually, she's a little thin. But, you know, that headlight too kind of got her. That's where it got sprayed with road salt over the years, I'm sure. But between these two trucks, I mean, I've got, I think, $3,500 in them. And then, well, the one was $500 delivery on that guy. The guy I bought it from was a true great guy to buy something from. So, you know, so we got $3,500 worth of, or no, $4,000 with delivery worth of trucks here to start with. Granted, we'll have a lot more in that by the time we get through, but we will, you know, we'll make the best of what we can. So, like I said, big things hopefully coming with these projects. It's going to take some time. But in the end, the vision I have is great. So the reason I'm calling this the load 'em up truck is I was always a fan of the Power Wagon, Power Ram style up to the first gen trucks. Back in the 70s, they had a lot of wild packages. And one of those was actually called the Pick 'em Up truck. So the Pick 'em Up truck, it said Dodge on the door, and then it had stripes, and there was, I think, a couple different color schemes, but the one I see a lot of is red, and then it had all different colors of yellow and orange stripes, and then on the back of the tailgate, it said pick the letter M and up, Pick 'em Up truck. So what I'd like to do with this is I'd like to do the Dodge. I'm thinking like a nice newer style Chrysler, charcoal gray with some metallic. And then I'd like to do all the shades of blue from the 70s, late 60s, 70s. You know, I'll need 5 shades of blue, and then wrap some stripes around, and then either in there or above there, I'd like to put the load, the letter M, and up, so that it's the load 'em up truck, just kind of as like a in tribute to the style of the 70s and whatnot, and it's kind of a vintage thing. I know, like 1968, they had the white hat specials of the trucks and the Challengers, and they had like the dude trucks. All of that. But my personal spin, I was always a fan of the stuff that they did with the 70 Power Wagons. So I might do it above in this area, just because I think I'm going to cut in some LED round running lights here, and then maybe a couple across there, depending how it sits. So yeah, big stuff to come. The first thing we're going to do is we'll be getting these cleaned out, cabs cleaned out. I'll probably lop off the back of the frame here and get rid of that. The rear tires will be good. I'll keep them as a spare for for the dump truck here. But other than that, the rest of this is just taking up space. And if I have places to set stuff, you can see that's where what I do with it. So that's less than ideal. But we'll shorten this guy up, give us a little more room to work in here. And then we'll probably start getting to the point of pulling the cab off of this one. Over on this side, this winter, hopefully we can get all the box sides off of this. I already started. I got the extensions off the top, and the peak at the front for the tarp and everything, that was up there. That's all down. And then the biggest thing with this guy is we've got an air issue. So we won't build more than 40 pounds of pressure. So I'm not sure if it's a governor or compressor or leak. Had to keep it tethered to the air compressor plugged in so that I could get it in the shed here. But we'll figure that out and then probably go through all the fluids on the engine, do some cleaning. I'd like to get it out on the road before I really start disassembling, just to make sure that, you know, the power divider and everything works. See how it drives, what it tops out at, just because, I mean, my long-term goal for this is to be able to take it down to like Mopar Nationals or over to Minnesota to Mopars in the park with some of the other stuff on and being pulled by it. So I'd like to be able to do highway speeds. At least I don't need to do 96 miles an hour.
I don't know this truck can do 96 miles an hour.
But I would like to at least be able to do like 72, 75 if I could. So I'd like to see what it does before I really start pulling the cab off of this. So next summer, hopefully we'll take it, early summer, we'll take her for a drive if I can get it that far, and we'll change all the fluids. And then we'll probably pull the flatbed off, start mocking up for the cab swap, because there's going to be just an outrageous amount of metal work to do. And so that'll occupy my time for probably the better part of a summer, I'm sure. And then hopefully we'll decide on whether we're going to put a cutoff on, or if we need to stretch the frame a little bit longer and get a little more wheelbase on. I'm not sure what the wheelbase is now. I'll have to measure. But, and then we'll start kind of seeing what we can do to make it fit. And we'll probably assemble it all, get all our gadgets and lights and everything put in on it, and then disassemble it back for paint. So like I said, we're going to do the body is going to be like a nice charcoal Chrysler color. And then actually I'd like to do the frame and the hubs and all that. I'd like to do in like a B5 blue, I think. Really seems like that would pull in the 70s nice, and I think that would look good with that gray. And then, you know, we'll do the wheels on the Daytons in a nice argent silver, and all that good stuff. So yeah, lots to come. It's going to be real big stuff happening here. So please tag along, and hopefully I can, you know, get updates every once in a while of where we're at and what we're doing with this.